What is this, the Power Rangers?
Ladies and gentlemen, you're watching a special edition of GEEKCASTER, everything sci-fi, fantasy, and geek culture. I'm Michael and today we have in the studio...
Gang, Dayveonne, I'm Bussey.
Hi, it's me, Corey Davis.
Our special
Ladies
guest,
first.
we have Enigma. Other special guest, HB Gibson. And of course, the lovely GEEKCASTER herself, the one, the only, Phoenix Sparks. Okay, so we talk about a lot of different things, and we're a geek for pop culture. We're a geek for culture, but also love and relationships. And we talked a lot in the last couple of days about the slap that rang across the world during the Oscars, right? We don't have to go through too much detail. We've talked about that before, and everyone's talking about that every which way. But watching some of the reactions and some of the side conversations, one good thing is that there's a lot of men and women talking about how we interact, how we feel about each other. And one thing I find that I'm not hearing is this concept of toxicity coming from women. There's a lot of male toxicity conversations, but not that many about female toxicity. So that's what we want to hit tonight. Does it exist? Let's start off there. And if you believe it does, how? And if it doesn't, how? So let's start with HB. Does feminine toxicity exist?
Yeah.
Okay.
I've experienced it all throughout my life, and I think that it comes from experience, the experiences that women go through. Be it abuse, rejection, things that are blaring on the television on what beauty is and what it's not. Women have a huge battle in their own lives as far as being women. And a lot of times, when you don't have, a good support group, or if you don't have like good backup or good friends, and it can turn bad. I mean, every job that I've had where there was a lot of females around, I was almost like a damn punching bag. As far as like the way I was talked to, because and all I'm doing is going to work. And I come to find out that, a lot of the ladies that I worked around were used to being, I guess, chased, or used to being given attention to. And then when this guy comes in and is not paying anybody any mind, all of a sudden everybody's on the attack, So I think it comes from, love, or maybe a lack of love, or a lack of attention. And I think with anybody, both male and female, with how you grow up and how you're treated, and whether you were given attention, whether you were abused and everything, it's going to come out.
Now, David, you're shaking your head. Do you agree with this? Do you agree that it does exist?
Yes. And the fact that I'm in the same boat as HB, where, like I explained, I do work at a job. Not going to say where. I deal with a lot of women. When I first got hired, I'm not going to say where. Don't. But I was verbally abused at the job a lot by women. Almost to the point where I almost lost my job.
And Corey, I see you're moving your eyebrows. So is this a clean sweep that you agree with these gentlemen as well, that this does exist?
Yes. So I also am in a female-dominated workspace. I was a massage therapist. I am a medic in the military, so I am in the healthcare field. I do have a lot of female friends. I have seen some toxicity from certain females. Just like anybody can be toxic.
Yeah.
It all depends on the person, their experiences, how they interact in the general public. So yes, it is a real thing and it does exist.
Now, Enigma, I'm seeing some eyes going to the left and the right. Now you're touching the bottom lip. All this, I see some sort of movement going on with you. Again, we just started, but any reaction to what was heard? We didn't even go into details, but what was said so far. Are you buying all this? What's happening from a female perspective?
The problem is that when it comes to females, it's not as specific. And I think that's what people have to understand. And it's like when you look at certain instances and say, well, that's toxic. But it may just generally just be that behavior or a learned behavior that they have had throughout the years that they don't see as toxic. And the problem is that we have to kind of break it down because for women, it's a lot harder. Everything's a lot harder to diagnose. Everything's a lot harder for us to actually do because we're more complicated. It's not like men where you can actually pinpoint something and say exactly this is toxic and that behavior is toxic.
Gotcha.
So
I disagree with that, but go ahead.
It's like listening to it and listening to the it's like workplace. I mean, I work in a workplace around a lot of women. A lot of women inside of a workplace, they tend to be competing with each other. And they tend to be trying to climb that ladder inside that workplace. So they tend to do things a little bit differently and more manipulative. Things are a little bit more precise in that particular sense because that in that workplace, especially with doing race on top of that, racial biases on top of that, as well as being a female, they're trying to compete with you. And they may see you as a threat.
Specifically, you're saying that these women are trying to compete with the men.
Correct.
That's what you're saying. Okay.
That's what it sounds like. And I don't know specifics. I don't know the generals. We haven't gone into that. But a lot of times in workplaces, it's usually women competing with women competing with men.
Well, it's a half an hour show. And we're gonna try to get down to some nitty gritty. Now, Phoenix Sparks, you travel a lot, so you're meeting people in many different situations. Do you see this as a thing as well?
I have so much to say. Where do I even start? Of course, everyone wants to talk about men getting paid more or being physically stronger, but no one wants to talk about the social advantage that many women have and know that they have and play on, right? Like, men being held to such a high standard of accountability. I don't feel women are held to the same standard and they play on that. A lot of women either choose not to take the accountability or have a sense of entitlement, right? Like kind of come into a situation, expect to be given a certain amount of privilege or, I've even seen like the whole outside of the work environment, women who are in a parenthood position and privilege as well, play the system in a way that is not fair to men. So.
Gotcha. Yeah, again, the inspiration by this, just a lot of, the Oscars, but there are a lot of women that were saying that they want a man to protect them in the way that, Will said that he felt that he needed to protect Jada. And I think a lot of the reactions were so toxic that made me say we have to do a show on this. So you guys mentioned, in the job situations that you felt that you were harassed. And I was harassed straight up at a work situation, actually at Viacom. Not going into details of that, but I didn't know what to do. And there was I feel that there was a race element as well, but I didn't know what to do. Like, what do I do here? You know? And again, because I feel that as men, we're, and the race does come into it because being as a black man, being tall, being larger, well, what do you mean you're being attacked? You know? And I was like, well, what do I do?
Yeah.
What do I do when the person above me is of a different race, little, and a woman, and who do I call? Am I a punk for like? It's like, wait a minute, did that go over my head, or did that just what? So, I think that there's it's difficult for us because a lot of times we don't know how to handle it, and you hear these stories of men being physically abused by their partners. And you're like, whoa, how is that possible? And I think a lot of it is not knowing what to do, and then don't want to sacrifice their quote unquote manhood in the process.
Well, that's a huge double standard in and of itself.
Yeah, I agree, but it's real. But it's real. How many men call the cops and say, hey, my woman's beating me up?
Right,
because
right.
They don't feel like they're going to be believed anyway. Nine times out of 10.
But even so, if you do write the police report and then you talk about it because you want to get help, you are looked at like you let a woman beat you. You're already
because you're taught.
But as soon as
you're taught not to put hands on a woman.
Right.
But if you try to defend yourself, immediately you're the bad guy. So
yeah,
there's double standard in that point. So.
Like, for instance, like I used to be in a relationship with a girl in college. She was very abusive.
Wow.
Verbal and physical. And she always would egg me on to put my hands on her. And I would never do it. One time I actually did get the police involved. They looked at me and looked at her, and the cop looked like, are you serious? You got me here for this woman right here? And I'm like, yeah, she's physically put her hands on me at top. Like, come on, like, do something.
Wow.
Well, there needs to be some training on the part of those who protect and serve, and let them know that it is quite possible for a male to be assaulted by a female. And being that we have been taught, and this society has taught us, to not put our hands on females because of the the consequences therein, it needs to be looked at. It needs to be addressed.
Right.
And until it's not looked at and until it is looked at and addressed, we're going to have a lot of men out there exploding in emotional and anger because they're bottled up in this container of what should I do, and if I do it, damned if I do, damned if I don't.
Right.
And then I really go to prison because I lose it.
I just want to interject and say, like, the training isn't the issue, because the training is there. When you're dealing with people, you're going to deal with people's biases. And so biases. So even though for, defending some law enforcement officers who do get the training of domestic violence and they know what to do, they're always going to first go off of their biases. So if they feel like you can defend yourself or something like that, you have to look at the individual and not just the whole department. You do have to break it down a little bit more sometimes.
And here's another situation where it happened with me when like 2016, I went to Comic-Con.
Right.
It was a late night. A drunk lady came up to me, threw her bottle almost at me, and then put her hands on me and pushed me. And I said, you assaulted me. I don't even know who you are. My first reaction was, hit. And then I had to sit back and like, hold up, no. I got a better idea. I could call the cops. I followed her all the way up to, I think, like 2 blocks. There was a police officer. While I was on the phone with, who was it? I think with dispatch or whoever it was. And it was a female officer, and I let her know that this woman did assault me. I don't know who she is and stuff. The officer said, well, then let it go. It's not that serious.
Interesting. Well, she didn't want to do the paperwork. That's what that was about.
But I didn't even realize I had the phone with the dispatcher on the line, and they heard everything. So they reported the whole scenario throughout the whole time.
Right.
Then the next day, I would say a Monday, they had emailed. Matter of fact, they called me and told me, "Look, we heard about it. The officer is on desk duty for her handling the situation like she was supposed to.
Right.
Do you want a police report?" And I told him, "Yeah, because I don't know this woman. And I'm asking you for help. Like, look, I'm not trying to put my hands on somebody and try to go to jail for it."
Well, this is a good transition, and I think this is really important to bring up. And there are people that know the law and use it as a weapon, as Phoenix Sparks was mentioning.
Yeah.
That there is a privilege. There is feminine privilege, female privilege. That it's a real thing. Not to discount all the women that are being abused by men, all the women that there's another side to it too, right? Like a lot of that privilege has built up because of women being treated so bad for so long, women being abused and taken advantage of for so long that it created this bubble, which is meant to protect them, but then using it as a weapon. So for instance, Jada didn't. I can't help it, but just because it's so recent. But when she looked at Will, she could have walked up there and handled that herself if she really felt some kind of way about it. Also, she didn't stop. She didn't stop Will from going up there. If you notice, for instance, right? And then please, Phoenix and Enigma, please correct me if you think. So if I'm in a relationship with either of you, right, and someone making fun of whatever, and you felt some kind of way about it, and you know me, you know if I'm a hothead, you know if I had a hard day, I just had enough. If I started walking up there, wouldn't you say, "Baby, relax, sit down"? Wouldn't you stop me?
I would have caught you.
You would have stopped me.
I would have caught you.
And
definitely.
And let's just say
it's not worth it.
Right. If you cared about me, I'll just leave it at that. Now, if I go up there and let's say that did not happen, I blah 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 blah, and I go sit down. As soon as I come down, like Mr. He-Man, wouldn't you be like?
I'd be comforting you.
Right. You'd be like, calm down, 'cause it's not that you would. I'm just throwing out there. I'm not judging. I'm just saying from my viewpoint. So these are things that I feel by not doing those things are acts of female toxicity. Am I right or am I wrong?
In that particular sense, yes. One thing I won't agree with is Jada going up there and doing it herself. Lord, God forbid, a black woman has emotion in any particular situation because it's seen outside of that box. But I don't agree with that. But I will say this, in her particular sense, also what she did after the fact is what bothered me. That's what got me about Jada. The situation, I feel the same way on people. I want to be protected. I want to do all that. But what she did is that she took that situation and she threw Will under the bus. And that's what made me very uncomfortable with the entire situation.
Yes, I think she came out and said, I don't need anybody to protect me. I think she said that. She said she doesn't need anyone to protect her. She actually came out and said that.
She also said that she didn't believe that Will should have slapped Chris Rock.
Well, not only that, before the situation, not just after and during, before the situation, I feel like Jada had continuously not taken accountability for her part in anything ever. Let's not forget the red table talks where she has Will sitting there and she was cheating on him. And she doesn't ever own up to cheating on him. She goes, it was really nice to heal somebody else. What?
I found it interesting too. Did you see the angle of the footage that she laughed after he slapped him?
Yes.
So let's bring this back to a broader community topic of there are a lot of responses that women felt that they would want a man to do that they were in a relationship with, and that in itself. Is that something that we need to be worried about as a community, as a society?
I think and this is just from my perspective as a black woman, Black women are the least protected people in this in the United States at this point. And a lot of Black women feel that way because they don't feel protected overall. So you're looking at if you're looking on a line, there's pretty much women that are sitting from one group going, hey, I wanna feel like somebody's gonna do that for me. Now, would I let you do it? No. But if that mindset is there that you'll go out there and protect me no matter what, absolutely.
But
so I think that's where that is. That is a lot of people who don't feel protected that are sitting there going, hey, I want to feel that way. And there's a lot of people that they're like, yeah, I would never let my partner do that.
Because isn't that like the again, using this just as a example, right? It's almost like, like a specimen, right? Wouldn't she be protecting him by putting out a press release saying, my baby thought he did what was right. There was a lot of emotion. Like there was no nothing to protect him after. I mean, I didn't even know that she said, I need someone to protect. If anything, that's the opposite of protecting your lover. Also, like by a bunch of women agreeing with what has happened, I think it's toxic because what you're telling me that there's a bunch of women willing to let their partners go to jail. They're willing to let them get arrested. They're willing to let them have a record based on how you see what I'm saying? Like, because again, she wasn't, using the example of, I want to be protected like Will protected Jada, it wasn't that deep of a joke. It wasn't like, she was spit in her face, she was hit or anything like that. And then she didn't do anything to protect him back. So that makes me wonder, there's a bunch of women not willing to protect their men.
And, not to talk, but I don't feel like I said, I'm that group that says I want to feel protected, but I would have stood by my man if he did that. And that's the difference between what Jada did and what somebody who wants to be protected would do.
Gotcha.
And bottom line is that Jada threw him under the bus, knowing that it would protect her career, not his.
I kind of
his
feel
career
like
is in the dumps now.
Yeah.
I 1,000% agree with Enigma. Like, I want to be protected, but not at the expense of my partner sabotaging themselves, right? Because even though Will probably didn't mean to sabotage himself, he did.
I want to bring this point up because we know a lot about their relationship and we know a lot about how she purposefully embarrasses him because that's what she said she likes to do. If that never happened, if we don't know this dynamic of their relationship, will we be having this specific conversation? I think the conversation would be different. Going further than that, I kind of want to say that we are at a point in society where men and women aren't considered teams anymore. Everyone works on an individual matrix. So whether we're together, I'm still responsible for me and you're still responsible for you at the end of the day. And so that's how we operate. That's the way society is right now. And I think that's the bigger issue that we're not talking about as well.
Gentlemen, thank you for letting me come in. Sorry about coming in. I'm just finishing up at the dojo.
Well, it's interesting, the timing and stuff, because being that, Kendrick, you're a martial artist and also not an artist as well, in addition to an artist, also a student of martial arts, and you embrace the philosophies of balance. Like, it's not just, I'm learning how to beat people up. Some people have this mentality when they go into the martial arts that they just want to be able to beat people up, just want to be able, or just to protect themselves, but not really taking that extra step further of growth, of balance. We are talking about feminine toxicity. Do you find in the world of martial arts or any of the classes that you find that there are women within the martial arts that, because they know how to kick the crap out of men, are toxic towards men?
Not actually. If I'm going to be completely honest, and I've been doing this thing for over 25 years, so we've had our fair share of not only just women but girls have come in through coming through our system. It's never been like that. Honestly, if there's been any sign of toxicity, it's from people who are essentially outside of the dojo floor.
Gotcha.
Maybe it might be a parent. Or, someone who knows somebody who's there. But all in all, the women who come and train with us, or the females who come and train with us, they're there for pretty much the same reason as most of the guys that are there, just to learn the art, to learn how to defend themselves, how to protect themselves when they're outside in these streets.
Okay. Well, that's good to hear, because there's that lesson of balance. And we're running a little bit out of time, but on Twitch we're going to just keep that going. And anyone watching this, we're just going to break this to part 1, part 2. Just keep going into it. So thank you all for joining this random conversation, because it's so important to get other viewpoints, especially that we have access to the world at this point as far as technology, and someone could watch this and think of something different, get something away from maybe the Smiths might watch this and hate us forever because we're talking about them. I don't know. But they might say, oh, that's an interesting way of looking at it, whatever like that. But I hope that we can transition to some sense of healing where we can no longer use the term masculine
toxicity,
toxic masculinity,
toxic masculinity, or toxic femininity. I think I want to push more the phrase toxic femininity to kind of bring back to center, where hopefully we can evolve where toxicity is just toxicity. Because I find that somehow it's been used in a way to put men in their place in a way. It's kind of changed, and also it's been a way of emasculating.
Emasculating.
The mouth. That word, that's it. Taking away the masculinity from men in many ways, which is also another topic of another show we should probably talk about. But I feel that we're getting to a point where men aren't able to be men anymore. You're making a face, Enigma. Go for it. What are you gonna say?
No, I'm just saying, and it's the same with women though. The phrase toxic femininity is used to describe how a woman is no longer submissive in so many different aspects.
Interesting.
So they're using that to basically say, why is a woman acting like a man?
Ooh, wait.
A manly thing.
That's a beautiful
thing. It's the same kind of thing. It's not, that's why I say it's such a general term, and the term, how loose it's used, it's very hard to kind of pinpoint what that is. And it's just basically, it's just toxic behaviure overall, like you just said.
Enigma, say that part again, because I thought that was really deep of just say that again, of because you're basically saying that use against women to be submissive. But I find that's interesting, because I've been in situations where, Kendra, can you mute, because if you're in the street, can you mute that or something? Okay.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. I find that I've been in situations where, in business situations, where it seemed that the women in power use toxicity to prove their dominance rather than learning how to communicate. You know what I mean? It's almost like taking by the way, this is the end of the episode. If you definitely watch it, I'm going to stop it right here, and we're going to keep going. Thank you so much for watching GeekCaster.